How are we going, everybody? Now, for those who've been following me, I've been away for the last 4 days. Now, the week before I was away for 5 days, so needless to say, I haven't been in my garden here all that long over the last 2 weeks. So really, it's been up to nature to look after it, and what nature does best is fills in all the gaps for you when you're not planting seedlings or plants into the garden. So you'll find a lot of things germinating. Most times they're not, will be weeds, but there's a lot of times where there can actually be something very exciting, something great that you didn't expect it to happen, and they just appear suddenly. And I'll tell you something, they actually are some of the best little plants that you'll find growing in your own garden. And I'm talking about little volunteers. Now, before I go there, I just want to show you this little punnet here, or tray of punnets. Now, we were down in Red Hill for 4 days, did a talk down there, met a lot of wonderful people, and we're setting up another outlet there, by the way, so stay tuned for the news on that one there. These were from a local market. Now, first things first, look at the garlic. Remember in the previous episode, only a couple of days ago I think it was, I spoke about you don't have to bury the garlic cloves all the way into the ground. You can just sit them on the surface or just pop the bottom ends into the ground like that and they will grow. But what you need to do ultimately is cover all that up, otherwise it really won't form into a full bulb. So you can start them off like that and just top dress them so carefully. We've got some broad beans, which I've never bought broad beans in my life. I've always sown them because they're so big and robust. This is my darling better half who bought these. And we've also got some, I think these are rocket. Now you can see the juvenile leaves here, the baby leaves that start off first, but it's really hard to tell because they're almost the same on every little seedling when they start off. Now have a look at this leaf. It's a little bit serrated, shark tooth style, and that looks like to me a rocket leaf. I might just pinch that off. No, it's too early to tell, folks. I'm dreaming about thinking I can taste that. And this is cos lettuce as well. Now, I'm not going to plant this. Let's take a walk around the garden and allow me to show you all my little volunteers. This is a bed that needs bird netting, but what you can see here and what it looks like to me to be coriander. So we grew some coriander in here and it's germinated everywhere. Now you can separate them as they grow, thin them out, but always leave the ones that you want to grow to their full potential in place. So don't try and transplant them, especially at this age. There's more coriander over here, which I mentioned in another video, but we've also got some rocket that's actually seeded and they're starting to germinate as well. So we've got a little bit of a mixture going on in here. Now, how does this happen, you're probably asking yourself, because we grow our seedlings for vegetables and herbs and other plants alike and harvest them when they ripen completely. Now, if you allow one of the many vegetables, like coriander, for example, in this case here, to flower on top, and a lot of you had that bad experience on coriander bolting before it actually grows into foliage, well, it will eventually produce a seed, and that's the seed there. Now, if you allow it to ripen to its full capacity and maturity, it will fall on its own. You don't have to do anything else. That's exactly what's happened here. These have self-sown themselves and germinated, so that's why I call them volunteers. So allow plants like coriander that flower, rocket that flowers on top, even parsley, it will go to flower. Most times what I find is people see the flowers come on the parsley, they cut them off trying to get more foliage out of them, but in fact it doesn't actually produce an abundance of foliage once it starts to flower. So you're better off allowing that particular plant to go to flower, dry the flowers, or allow the flowers to dry on the plant, and that seed can fall down by either wind or you by carefully rubbing the tops of it and it falling down on its own. And just leave it there. Even if you've got mulch, look at this, we've got a heap of mulch in here. It is about 2 inches thick. I'm not going to disturb it too much, but it is quite deep, so it's about that far down there, and yet these seedlings have germinated through there. And it also works for all the other leafy plants. Silver beet, spinach, kale, broccoli if you like, but that has to go to flower as well. But yeah, that's a flowering plant on top, so it's not a seed pod where you're collecting it like a tomato here. So the seeds are in here, and these sort of plants like that, like your tomatoes, you need to pick the best and healthiest fruit. Too late now, unless you're up north, you're about to plant your tomatoes. You pick the strongest and healthiest fruits on the plant, generally down the lower parts of the plant, not at the top. You allow that to ripen to its full capacity, and then you'll take the fruit off and you separate the seeds and store them away. Let me show you some other varieties. I've got some rocket here. This has actually gone to seed and I haven't pulled this out completely, so we left this one to mature. Now the rocket produces a seed pod, a long seed pod like that, and inside are the seeds, and they're tiny little, almost looks like, you know, ground pepper. Here we are. Have a look at that. So that's our rocket seed there. Now I've left this plant to mature and dry out completely, and these seed pods will crack open on their own naturally and fall to the ground. Now some of them have fallen to the ground. Have a look. Some of them have fallen to the ground, literally growing. All in the lawn area here. So yeah, so what do you do there, guys? Do you kill the lawn to keep the rocket going? Well, you know, nature's going to have a bit of fun. Maybe the rabbits like rocket. Now next to that, I've got some, this is cos lettuce, and if you, cos lettuce goes to bolt, you'll find that the leaf that follows the stalk just below the flower heads is a lot darker, or darker and more leathery like, and not as long. You can see it's a bit more of a curve or a rounded leaf as opposed to the long leaf that you have. But on top of that is where the flowers come from. Now these turn into little pom-poms and eventually they dry out, and inside there's thousands of seeds. Now this is wet, so the seed's not going to come off that easily because we added some water to it. But the seed of a lettuce is not round like that of a rocket, but long. And Cara misses me, folks. She does miss me. Hey, sweetheart, I'm here, I'm back home. Daddy's home. Okay, now you rest there. Now we've got a cos lettuce here. We've also got an oak leaf lettuce. And I'm going to have some fun with these pak choys of one box, or, oh, stop touching me, pak choys to go to flower like this as well, and eventually get our seeds off that from those. So I've allowed a couple to go. Now, the thing about allowing plants to go to seed, they look a little bit messy, you know, untidy. You'll find them sort of falling over. You can stake them up if you like, or otherwise, if you're quite content, just it's a short period of time where your garden's a little bit messy looking, but in return, folks, there's thousands of seeds, literally thousands upon thousands of seeds here, just from the one plant. You never have to buy another seedling again, unless you've got a partner who loves going to the markets and just buying everything they see. I hope she doesn't watch this, by the way. Oh, tomato. Look at this. We've got tomatoes growing here too. Now, out of season, but when you get a spike in temperature, they will germinate. Now, whether they survive or not is another story, but once I build that hothouse, we can transplant those when they're big enough and straight into the hothouse. Good stuff. There's some beans here as well, so they've had another burst of life, so a bit more growth coming on there. We've got some, look at these ones here. A little bit undersized because the weather's a little bit cold on them, but we're just getting another handful of beans that we can actually harvest and make another bean soup or something like that. But you can, again, leave some of the better pods on the plant, the bigger ones, like I've done here, and they're nice and dry now. You can take these away and store them in a nice dry place. You can leave them in their pods because they're quite safe to stay there, and look at that. Plenty of beans again for the next year. So we've got one pod here that's probably got about 8, 10, if not more beans in there. So we're going to get a heap more flowers coming on. When it comes to collecting seeds from the fruit or the vegetable like this, rather than from a flower head, they need to ripen to the full capacity like that. You can take them a little bit off, a little bit early off the plant, just before they harden off, but no harm at all to leave it on there, and when you're ready, come and collect and plant back down. That's if the season allows it. Now, believe it or not, I'm looking at a cucumber. I'm just going to show you this one here. It's Lebanese cucumber, the same plant, this one here that is, where it's growing here, coming along around down here, but then if you come to this one, have a look at this. It's also Lebanese. Don't ask me what's happened there, but it's grown ginormously. So that's ripened to its full capacity. It can go a little bit more as well. So let's go and check some of the other ones out. And just to your right, look what's growing underneath there. Under this little makeshift hothouse that's half complete, half built, and half everything. We had a wonderful harvest out of here. We've probably got about 30 or 40 cucumbers, if not more, of this season out of the growing, and we left some beauties on. Have a look at that. Now this is completely ripened. We've got some more coming on. I'm not going to harvest this to eat. I'm just going to let that there just do its thing, what it's doing. We're going to take this one off and enjoy that in a salad later on tonight. But that's what you need to do with your cucumbers as well. So collect them. Now this will eventually start to rot if you leave it up there. So you'll need to take it down, collect your seeds, dry it out. And if you're not sure how to do it, I'll do a little segment later on and demonstrate that. It's really simple. It's pretty much the same process with most of these sort of vegetables and fruits. So your cucumbers, tomatoes, even things that are a little bit pulpy on the inside, you need to dry that out, otherwise it can rot out. Now just below there, your typical spring onion. Now I'm not sure how many have ever grown them. I know they're a very easy plant to grow, but again, this is wet because I just watered earlier. And inside there are little round seeds in each one of those, and lots of them too. Now, one spring onion head, or even just an onion head, will give you 1,000, 2,000, I've never counted them, but a hell of a lot of seeds, folks. And what does it cost you? Nothing. just a little bit of tender loving care. Enjoy the harvest, leave one to go, and enjoy. Now right here, this is the thing about when you let plants go to their full maturity. It looks really unsightly, but look here, this is an endive. This is a green curled endive. Beautiful purple flower on it when it comes into full flight. But when it finishes, if I come around here, we should have something in there. I can't see now, it's getting a bit too dark, but the seeds are in there amongst all that. So all we do is this, just throw it down there and let it do its thing. Nature will take over, folks. So when you're away for a couple of weeks, don't expect you're going to look as pristine as it did just before you left, but expect, you know, some great seeds to be developing for you and a lot of volunteers starting to germinate throughout the garden. And as I'm looking around, yeah, I was getting a little bit upset because everything's just almost, it looks like it's been battered and beaten up. But in fact, they've gone through their whole life cycle. They've gone to seed now. And as I look down, I see more plants germinating. It's just, you know, it's lucky dip. There's another pile here of seedlings growing here. Have a look at this. Now, a punnet like that, which that would fill up 2 punnets, would be worth at least 10 bucks. Now, if I went around to every part of this garden and the amount of plants that I try to put in this garden and the size of it, I'd be up for about 500 bucks, if not more, in seedlings. This way, I'm up for nothing. So start collecting your seeds if you haven't done so already. Always go for the heirloom, the open pollinators, nice true to type, that don't change over. So when you try to collect a seed from a hybrid, it might not revert back to one of its mother plants. You may have a broccoli and it ends up being a rape plant or something else or similar. But it's no good for anything other than stock feed. Collect your seeds, store them well, date them so you know when you've picked them and where you grew them, in what part of your garden bed. And always use quality fertilizers. Our fertilizers are nothing but the best: Superfood, Black Grit, and our Liquid Gold and Eco Butch. That's all you need across the entire plant kingdom. That's my opinion. Give it a go, you'll be surprised. And our planting mix, folks, we're nearly going to sell out of those clean skin bags, so get your orders in, take advantage of it before we go to the fully labelled bag. And for those with the reward points, if you haven't redeemed your points yet, get onto it because we're running out of time. You need to redeem them before we move over to the new platform, which is a bigger and better experience for everybody to enjoy. And I'm talking about a new website. So go to vasilisgarden.com, check your reward points and take advantage of the great specials we have every day. From me, Vasily, Maresi.